You may have seen recent headlines about lead being found in popular protein powders, which can sound quite alarming. A recent report from Consumer Reports, a well-respected independent testing organization, has certainly stirred the pot. They tested 23 different protein powders and shakes, many of which are likely familiar to you from supermarket shelves. Their findings revealed that the majority of these products contained detectable levels of lead. It is important to understand what this means before we jump to any conclusions, as the details are crucial to navigating this issue without unnecessary panic or fear. The science here is quite nuanced, and the story isn't as simple as it first appears. The investigation discovered a significant difference between various types of protein. Plant-based powders, which are derived from sources like peas, rice, and fava beans, tended to have much higher concentrations of lead. On average, these vegan-friendly options contained about 9 times more lead than their dairy-based counterparts, such as whey or casein protein. Even beef-based protein powders were found to have roughly double the amount of lead compared to dairy. This pattern points us toward the source of the contamination, suggesting it is linked to how and where the core ingredients are grown, rather than being an issue with all powders equally. The most striking examples from the report involved 2 specific products that had particularly high lead levels per serving. One, a vegan mass gainer from Naked Nutrition, was found to contain 7.7 micrograms of lead in a single serving. Another, Huel's Black Edition powder, contained 6.3 micrograms per serving. These numbers sound high, and they did exceed certain very strict guidelines, which we will discuss. It is worth noting that Naked Nutrition reportedly removed their product from the market following the report, showing how seriously some companies are taking these findings and responding to consumer concerns about safety and transparency. However, it is vital to put these numbers into context. While Consumer Reports flagged these products, none of them were found to exceed the United States federal government's official limits for total daily dietary lead intake for adults. The controversy arises because different organizations use different safety benchmarks. This discrepancy is at the very heart of the debate. Are these powders truly dangerous, or are they simply falling foul of an exceptionally cautious standard? Understanding this difference is the key to making an informed decision about the protein powder you might be using in your daily smoothie or post-workout shake. So, how does a heavy metal like lead end up in something we consume for our health? The primary source is not a factory mishap, but something far more fundamental: the Earth itself. Lead is a naturally occurring element found in soil and rock all around the world. Over the past century, human activities have unfortunately added to these natural levels. Decades of using leaded petrol in cars and lead-based paints have left a lasting legacy of contamination in our environment. This lead settles into the soil and can remain there for a very, very long time, becoming part of the agricultural landscape. Plants, just like us, absorb nutrients and minerals from their surroundings to grow. When they are planted in soil that contains lead, they can't help but draw it up through their roots along with the water and other essential elements. This process is called agricultural uptake. Certain plants, including peas and rice, which are the very foundation of many popular plant-based protein powders, are particularly effective at absorbing these heavy metals from the ground. Consequently, the lead becomes integrated into the plant itself. When these crops are harvested and processed, the lead they contain comes along for the ride. The manufacturing process can also play a role, sometimes concentrating the lead that was already present in the raw ingredients. To turn a pea or a rice grain into a fine powder, it must go through several stages of drying, milling, and refinement. During this extensive processing, the protein is isolated from the rest of the plant material. This can have the unintended effect of concentrating not just the protein, but also any heavy metals that were bound to it. So while the original plant might have had only trace amounts, the final highly concentrated powder can end up with a more significant level per gram. It is important to remember that avoiding trace amounts of lead entirely is nearly impossible in our modern food supply. It can be found in small quantities in many healthy foods we eat every day, from root vegetables like carrots and sweet potatoes to leafy greens like spinach. The challenge for protein powder manufacturers, especially those using plant sources, is to source their ingredients from cleaner soils and refine their processes to minimize contamination as much as possible. This is why responsible companies invest heavily in testing both their raw ingredients and their final products to ensure levels remain low. When we talk about lead, health experts are unanimous on one point: there is no known safe level of exposure. Our bodies have no use for it, and it can be harmful. The primary concern is not about getting sick after a single protein shake. The danger lies in chronic, long-term exposure. Over time, lead can accumulate in the body, particularly in our bones. From there, it can be slowly released back into the bloodstream, potentially causing health issues years down the line, such as kidney damage, high blood pressure, and cognitive problems. The risk is especially pronounced for children and during pregnancy, as lead can affect a developing brain. The confusion over protein powders stems from a major disagreement on what constitutes a concerning level of lead. In the United States, the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, sets an interim reference level for total daily lead intake from all dietary sources at 8.8 micrograms for women of childbearing age. In contrast, the Consumer Reports study used California's much stricter Proposition 65 standard, which sets a maximum allowable dose of just 0.5 micrograms per day before a warning label is required. This California standard is not a safety limit, but a notification rule designed to be extremely cautious. This is why some companies like Huel have pushed back against the recent reports. They argue that their products are safe under national and international guidelines, and that applying California's uniquely strict warning level to a single product is misleading. Most of the protein powders tested fell well below the FDA's total daily limit, but many exceeded California's tiny threshold. It is a classic case of experts looking at the same data, but drawing different conclusions based on the yardstick they choose to use. This makes it difficult for consumers to know who to believe and whether they should truly be worried. So, should you be worried? The consensus among most toxicologists is that occasional use of these protein powders is unlikely to pose a significant health risk to the average adult. The problem arises for individuals who consume these products every single day, sometimes in multiple servings. If your daily protein shake is your main source of lead exposure, and it contains several micrograms, your cumulative intake could become a genuine concern over months and years. The key, therefore, is moderation and understanding your total exposure from all sources, not just from one supplement. Navigating this issue does not have to be a source of anxiety. The goal is not to abandon your health goals, but to become a more informed consumer. There are practical and straightforward steps you can take to minimize your exposure to lead from protein supplements. First, do a little research on the brand you use or are considering buying. Many reputable companies are now responding to consumer concerns by being more transparent. Look for brands that conduct third-party testing and publish the results, often called a certificate of analysis, or COA, on their websites for each batch. One of the clearest takeaways from recent testing is the difference between protein sources. If you are concerned about lead, the data suggests that choosing a dairy-based protein like whey or casein is a safer bet, as they consistently show much lower levels of heavy metals. If you need to stick with a plant-based option for dietary or ethical reasons, try to vary your sources. Instead of using a pea-based protein every single day, perhaps alternate it with a powder made from a different source, or simply use it less frequently to reduce your consistent exposure from one particular product. Another simple strategy is to moderate your intake. If you have been consuming multiple protein shakes every day, consider scaling back. Ask yourself if you truly need that much supplemental protein, or if you could meet your goals by incorporating more whole food protein sources into your diet. Foods like Greek yogurt, eggs, lentils, and chicken are excellent protein sources, and are generally less likely to contribute significantly to your heavy metal intake. Using protein powder as a supplement to a balanced diet, rather than a meal replacement every day, naturally lowers any potential risk. Ultimately, there is no need to panic and throw out your protein powder. The recent reports are a valuable reminder that the supplement industry is not as tightly regulated as pharmaceuticals, and it pays to be a mindful consumer. By choosing brands that prioritize safety and transparency, opting for lower-risk ingredients like whey when possible, and using powders in moderation, you can continue to support your fitness journey confidently. Staying informed and making careful, deliberate choices is always the best approach to managing your long-term health and well-being.